let's just start with, what is this family secret? Because is it really just one secret that's at the core, or is it referring to a whole treasure chest of things, not that they're treasures, but of what's hidden underneath family dynamics? Does that make sense?
I think that's a good way of putting it, actually, that it is a treasure chest. Because the family secret is a twofold thing. Of course, the family secret is the thing that's hidden from us, the thing that's hidden or in denial, or it's pushed to one side within our own life. It's the thing that, the family denies, or they feel shamed by, or it's the thing that's been passed through generations that's seemingly okay when it's not. And the sensitive kind of highlights that. So the sensitive individual sort of highlights, actually, that doesn't feel like it's okay, or maybe I need to address this, or why hasn't this been addressed before? So the sensitive becomes the person that goes, whoa, hang on a second, this looks like something that needs resolving and looking at, or it's the reason behind things. Why isn't anybody else interested in it? Why is it only me? And then that sensitive gets separated out as that person who's the one behaving in a naughty way. They're highlighting something that was not meant to be highlighted. But you see, when I'm saying at the same time that it is a treasure, that it is a treasure chest, because when you start looking in to what the family secret is, you then reveal to yourself reasons for things. And once you have that level of revelation to the self, you then have the opportunity to change it. You can't change something you don't know about. You can't change something that you haven't fully owned. You can't change something that you're not acknowledging. It's very, very difficult. And you can't evolve your own consciousness if you don't own things that are there. If you don't notice, you don't own some kind of, oh, actually, that has adjusted who I am. It's had some impact on me. And without doubt, there's so much evidence in terms of early adversity, things that have really shaped who we are, and whether that is shaped who we are or has shaped the previous generations. It shaped them when they were young, when they were small people. It genetically modified who they were.
Can you explain that? What do you mean?
Well, let's say, as an example, okay, let's say that, let's say about emotions, okay, let's say about emotions. So I'll use something very, very simple, okay, so let's say in early 19th century, Auntie Floss, we'll call her Auntie Floss, stamped on Auntie Margaret's foot. And Auntie Floss never said sorry for stamping on Auntie Margaret's foot. Now, Auntie Margaret takes into her own psyche, well, it's all right to go and stamp on people's feet and not say sorry. So Auntie Margaret then, through the generations, stamped on family members' feet and never said sorry. And so you end up with the whole generation or different generations of people spread out, where it seems to be okay to stamp on your foot, on someone else's foot, and never apologise. But if Auntie Flossie had said, do you know what? I'm so sorry for stamping on your foot like that. That was not okay. I couldn't manage myself. I didn't manage my anger, and I really do apologise. Then that whole pathway would have been something different.
Well, the apology, let's talk about the importance of apologising then, and how much that alone can rectify the impact of difficulties in childhood.
Well, I think, the power of an apology, whether it's a difficulty in early life or it's a difficulty in adult life, never underestimate the power of a sincere apology, in my opinion. A sincere apology goes a long way to cancelling a huge amount of things out in a person's life. But also, it's a case of not necessarily having to go look for someone to apologize, because some people never will apologize. So as an example, Aunt Flossie's never going to apologize. She never was in her mind to, and her own family secret was, you never apologize. You never take ownership for a bad deed. So don't apologize. You never should apologize. And maybe that's Aunt Flossie's family secret, that it's not good to apologize. But what I'm saying is never underestimate, certainly for a sensitive, the power of a sincere apology. And that's not necessarily, that you have to, as a sensitive, go about apologizing for all your misdeeds in life. But I'm talking about the power of a sincere apology towards yourself. So in terms of, something like the family secret and all of this, and, we all store a strong element of shame around all these different things, and the family secret has many facets to it, and it is secret. Some of it is secret to our conscious mind, but it's not secret to our unconscious. It's something that we carry, we store. Emotions are passed through generations. It's passed in the DNA. There's enough evidence to show that actually emotional memory is passed through generations. It's there. It's part of our unconscious. As a sensitive, we do feel, as part of our journey through life, this need to kind of expel that old stuff. And I think we can't move forward in our own lines of awareness and our own consciousness if we're not prepared to, or if we won't, or it holds it up, it stores, it stays there, because the secret masks who we are, because we don't know who we are whilst we still hold the family secret.
Well, I was going to ask about that. Why is it that we as sensitives feel such a strong need to solve this?
I think it's part of it. It's kind of like and certainly I would say in my experience, it's kind of like a compulsion, because I think it's very difficult for us to evolve in our own thinking and our own moving forward while still keeping it, because I think part of our society now isn't, well, a big part of our society isn't reliant anymore on avoiding things. I would say, maybe in generations past and centuries past, it was reliant on avoiding things, because, lots of the things that we had to do to survive in life were productive. We had to do physical things to survive. Now, I would say that much of our survival is an emotional difference, is a difference in engaging with a deeper core element of ourselves. And where we're not prepared to, we can't do anything in life. We can't move forward, and we can't actually do anything, because a lot of the requirements now in our society are mental requirements rather than physical. So for a sensitive, the compulsion to adjust this and change this is because we can feel more vividly our own nervous system, and we can feel it there. There's something lurking in the background, tapping away. It says, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that. And it's boring. It's the part of us that's going, well, it needs a way out, because we need to move forward.
Yes, you used a good word when you said evolve. And also, I think as sensitives, we're so driven towards freedom.
Yes. And part of that freedom is the freedom from the family secret. It's almost like if you imagine something holding you down, something that's holding you down from flying.
We
your
don't
own,
held down.
it's that sort of, well, you have to actually know what you're attached to, what's holding you, to be able to choose to change it, to release it.
So let's talk about some of the ways that the sensitive is impacted. So how does early life trauma impact the sensitive?
Well, you could say, in actual fact, that there's plenty of arguments as far as that's concerned, that early life trauma creates a sensitive. So, and that goes back to the womb. That goes back to, before you even had some kind of ability to interact with your own life. And, sensitivity, as in a sensitized nervous system that is more aware, more aware to stimulus, to fear factors, all of that. That change or that alignment starts when we're carried in the womb. And without doubt, there's so much evidence to say that for us to be born as sensitives, there must have been some kind of maternal stress, as in, at some point during our mother's pregnancy, she was in a state of stress. And then for many sensitives, certainly as we've seen in the family secret quiz, the high percentage have had some kind of child adversity. So there was some kind of, to add to that, being born with that sensitized nervous system, you add to it, there's a higher level of early life experiences that have had that kind of impact. And then as you add all those things together, why does this become something that is an experience for a sensitive? Or why has it become something for a sensitive to sort out? Well, I think the real power of being sensitive is that we're born not as a ways and means of excusing things. I think we're born as a ways and means for resolving the excuses.
You mentioned the family secret quiz. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that's based on, and what the results indicated?
Well, the family secret quiz is something that we've created, which is a combination of the original ACE, which is Adverse Childhood Experience questionnaire, mixed with, so the main 10 questions from that questionnaire, mixed with 10 that we utilize specifically for sensitives. And we had, in a very short period of time, 7-day period, we had 1,700 people who would regard themselves as sensitives, intuitive sensitives, complete that questionnaire. And the results are really quite clear that, a strong majority of, very strong majority of intuitive sensitive people have had a significant amount of early childhood adversity. Now, does that make them weaker? No, not at all. I think it's actually been the main thing that's actually driven them to find some kind of deeper understanding, deeper meaning, and deeper expression in their own life. So I think the purpose of the quiz was to give people an understanding, to give intuitive sensitives an understanding of what I suspected anyway, that they would have those, that adversity as an early foundation. But rather than see it as something that's disabling, it's a case of going, wow, actually, it is real. It's not part of my imagination. It's not normal for for those circumstances. And therefore, as soon as you allow that as part of your own awareness, it gives you the power to change it, gives you the power to then interact with your own self, to find who your own self is, rather than an extension of the family secret.
And feeling embarrassed of who you are, that sense of shame.
Yes. And I would say, shame, the deep shame that people, shame is a very strong thing that floods through people's lives. And I'm not talking about, normal shame, where we're then sort of addressing our limits on things. I'm talking about toxic shame. Toxic shame that says we're not this, we're not that, we're not good enough, we're not worthy, we're not allowed self-esteem, we have to be a massive people pleaser. All of those things, those habits that people have have a root in shame.
So I've heard you say before that sometimes we can be living half a life. And is shame the kind of thing that might be in the way of somebody truly living their authentic self, which is also something you talk about?
Well, I think it's very hard for you to even know what your authentic self is, unless, whilst you still carry shame, whilst you still identify strongly with, let's say, the family shame, or the idea of the family shame. So, just very briefly on that, in my own experience, I would say I carried for many years, the whole feeling of this sort of embarrassment and shame of my own family secret. And I would say my own, family secret is really quite extensive. In terms of the ACE scores, I have a high ACE score, a high childhood adverse childhood experience score, and I think it's something that if you know it's there but you don't know it's there, it's difficult to do anything with. And I would say, one of the big relief factors as far as I was concerned is that finally I had some kind of something to identify it with. And therefore then it's the true permission to allow the shame of the family secret to begin its journey, its healing journey. And I think then when you really truly fully allow that, it becomes so much easier to see what the authentic self wants, or what you actually need or want in life. I remember asking myself, when I was maybe in my teenage years, thinking, who am I? I don't know who I am. Who am I? Who am I? I don't know who I am. There's this very strong, compelling feeling of thinking, well, I haven't got a clue who I am. Because, that shame, that energy of shame is all about trying to please everything else but yourself, or to even know what yourself wants.
What would you say to somebody who's listening to you right now and they might be feeling extremely uncomfortable at the thought of addressing something like this? How would they, I guess, find that courage to address something that's so deeply rooted and quite painful?
I think the key thing is, I can only speak from my own experience, in how I've looked at things and certainly looked at how things have changed, is to try and look at it from the basis of what's not in your life right now that you would like to have in your life. And then work backwards from that and think, well, why can I not have that in my life? And I think you then start to reveal answers to yourself, and you think, oh, okay, maybe because of this, or maybe because of that. And then it kind of gives you permission to start that healing process. So again, to give you as an example, I think for me, it came to a point where I felt lonely, to be honest, felt lonely as part of something that didn't feel right.
Well, isn't that part of the experience of, I would say, at least most intuitive sensitive, because they're the ones that feel affected by this family secret. Do
Yes.
non-sensitives feel affected? Do they?
Sorry?
Do non-sensitives feel affected by the family secret?
I
Or
think it's easier for them to deny it. I
Hmm,
think it's easier for them to push it away because their energy system isn't sensitized. So I think it's easier for them to continue it because the system isn't. It's not aware of it. Bearing in mind most of the time because someone has had the family secret all their life, they think it's normal. So, you kind of think it's normal. And so for me, again, looking at it along those lines as an example, I thought it was all normal. I thought all of that was normal. But I think what gave me the courage to adjust something and change something is that I saw what I didn't have in my life and what I wanted. And I knew that there was a big gap between the two. So as an example, I wanted in my life, I made a decision. It wasn't it was a decision. Okay, I can't really put it in any other way. It was a decision, and I think once you make a decision, you commit to it, even though you're scared.
I agree.
And my decision was that I wanted a happy marriage. I wanted a husband who loved me, that I knew loved me, who I knew loved me, that I wouldn't have to question that every day, as I saw in my own parental dynamics. I wanted to have children, but at the same time, I was petrified of the idea of ever having children because I didn't want them to turn out like me at that time. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to bring children into this world until I am have learnt from my own experiences and I can be a better person in my view, not in anyone else's view, in my view. And it wasn't based on my idea of you know how I should be or how I shouldn't be. It was based on this idea of how can I commit to try and be decent, as in a decency when I'd seen quite a lot of indecency, so to speak. So I made a decision that I wanted happy children, that I wanted a husband that loved me, and I wanted a work environment that I really enjoyed. And I made those decisions. And even though I was terrified, I was frightened, I still I made that decision.
So what you're saying is that you couldn't have moved forward down that path without addressing some of this early early experiences in life.
No, what I'm saying is I couldn't expect for it to magically happen without my input, without my commitment to change my experience of myself.
And come out of denial that others may be.
Yeah, and I also decided that I didn't want, and again, I've had many health complaints through my life as well, and I decided I didn't want those to rule my life. Difficult for them to step over, because they were ruling my life. But I made a decision that I needed to interact with myself to figure out why they were there, what they were trying to communicate, what it was to do with. But rather than name, blame, and shame, it was about actually a compassion and a decency towards myself, not towards perpetrators, anything else, but a level of compassion towards myself. And I think, addressing the family secret, as in what it means to your own inner world, gives you the power to step into your own power and your own sense of self-compassion, healing and nurturing and understanding, and especially if you haven't actually experienced it as part of your foundational life experience. But I also think that level of adversity and that level of sensitivity, without that level of adversity and without that level of sensitivity, I don't think I would understand people like I would say I understand people today. So, I'm not saying that any of it was right, but I'm saying that you can make your own gold out of rubbish.
Well, for people, you mentioned health difficulties earlier, and it's interesting what you're saying about making gold out of rubbish. There will be people who are watching this who are feeling really unwell, and health difficulties are a very typical outcome of early childhood trauma. So how does somebody go around changing that into, or having an alchemic experience with that, and changing that into something that's rewarding?
I think you have to look into the mirror. You have to look into the mirror and look at the adult that's there. So look in a mirror, look at the adult, and look to the child that you once were. To see that child that you once were in that mirror, and see where that child is trying to talk to you. And show that child some compassion, some attention, and some love. And then you soon find that your body, because your body and your head, your body and your mind are not separated.
So it's a case of accessing your inner parent as well as your inner child.
Absolutely. And you start to give that part of yourself what it missed out on. And
like what? Give me an example, something that you noticed your child needed and how you gave it what it needed.
Okay, well, I would say my child needed something to have faith in. And it couldn't have faith in its environment, couldn't have faith in its caregivers. So it found a faith that would be something bigger. So it couldn't find a faith in God because it didn't believe that a God would expose it to those kind of circumstances. So it found a faith in something, a deeper level of connection. And it found a faith in a deeper level of connection to itself and its own intuitive process. So it found a faith and a level of connection within a force bigger than itself. Okay, so, but it didn't give it a name. It just gave it a force bigger than itself in terms of a deeper connection, an intuitive connection between the adult self and the child self, which would allow its own depth of wisdom to come forth, where it could then ascertain what was the difference between what felt right and what felt wrong. And I would say that I've adhered to those rules through my life, which is what feels right and what feels wrong.
So coming away from the rules that were written for you and creating your own.
Yes, absolutely. And I think once you allow that level of connection within yourself, it stops being confusing.
What would you say to somebody who is, say, not new to this, but is having a little difficulty getting to that level of depth and finding that level of connection? How do you
As I say, look in the mirror.
literally look in the mirror?
Yeah, literally look in the mirror and see the child you once were. And then start to connect with that part of who you are, because it's still there. And, you can't expect people not to abandon you if you keep abandoning yourself.
Very good point. That's a hard one to spot, really. I don't think it's easy to realize that you're abandoning yourself. But once you do, it's easy to realize why it's happening all around you.
Yeah. And then you start that level of reconnecting, that reconnection. That's what we do as far as intuitive sensitives are concerned. Why do you think that I provide the circle? The circle is a ways and means of reconnecting, finding that connection back again with yourself, as well as with other people where it feels safe. But that's what it's about. It is reestablishing that sense of, or even not even reestablishing, beginning that level of deep connection within your own world, where you can find who you actually are. And without doubt, I think that is, certainly, I've been described as a psychological anomaly by a psychiatrist, which is, someone who's remarkably sane for their life experiences. And I think that that's true of a lot of intuitive sensitives. I was asked, what on earth have you been doing? Because you shouldn't be as you are. But I think that that's true for many intuitive sensitives, because I think that is what we do. We search for that level of connection within ourselves, which, but it's not about then keep on plugging it. It's about putting it in and allowing that whole new electrified part of who you are to flood all the way through you, rather than keep putting the plug out because you think you're not good enough, you shouldn't have, or that you're loyal to the wounds of the family rather than healing them.
Well, loyalty is a really interesting area to discuss, I think, because a lot of people are going to feel extremely this sort of sense of deep, extreme loyalty to the family secret and keeping it quiet. That's pretty much how intuitive sensitives grow up. So how do you let go of that loyalty, that programming around that?
Well, it's a process. That's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight, and it happens, I think, with an increasing of that self-compassion, and that starts with, that's, in my view, that really, really properly starts with giving yourself permission to release the shame. Because it's not anyone's fault.
No.
It's no one's fault. And it's, there are reasons for things in life, but there are not, I think there's reasons, but there's not excuses. Everyone has the choice to change something. Everyone actually does have a choice. And I think, that's the power of intuitive sensitive people, because they actually choose to change something. They're brave. We have too many people who've completed the family secret quiz, who've got ACE scores, so childhood adversity scores of 10. 10
being the highest. That's
10 being the highest. Yeah, we've got too many people with the 10. And that breaks my heart to see that there are people in this world, and I get emotional about it, that have had that level of unacceptability in their life. But there are reasons for those, but they are never excuses. And those are really, really, absolutely 100% intuitive sensitives are the brave ones, because they stop it. And you can't, you stop it in terms of you're interacting with yourself. You're brave, because you're actually deciding that something wants to be different. And I think that that is the power of our sensitivity. And that is why I am very, very pleased that I was, no matter whatever the adversity that I came into, that I was born a sensitive.
Heidi, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to talk to you. It was a really enjoyable discussion. I really enjoyed that. And I think all of you will take something away from that.
Good. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Somi.